Okay, so what you see here is my blog site, frankopedia.com, and this is running on AWS. And what I did was I pretty much leveraged this site. It's running WordPress so that I can actually practice and be more motivated to study for the AWS test because I was procrastinating quite a bit and didn't really put the time in that I needed to be able to pass the test. I was failing all the practice tests that I was taking, and I was getting frustrated. So I decided to build this site out, and then, I got some additional prep material. I am a Linux Academy subscriber, and I did some training through Linux Academy, did some training through Global Knowledge. Um, but I don't think any of those really prepared me um, for the exam. So I found this course, not this course, but this one here. It was cheap. It was only like $50 on Udemy. It's a pretty good course, but the content I think is for an older version of the test because it has a lot of material in here, and this guy does a great job of covering not just how you need to dissect the questions, but he also gives you some core knowledge and some demos, and then there's quizzes, and then he actually goes down and breaks down the quizzes. So he has a section where he's explaining the scenario-based questions and how to pick through the rubbish basically and find what you need. What? So yeah, this was pretty helpful, I think. At least it gave me an idea what to expect. But when I actually sat down and clicked begin on that test, and the first 25 questions, there were like nothing that I saw in any of the questions that were in this course. So I struggled through the first 25 questions, and then things started to lighten up a little as I calmed down and put on my thinking hat, my architect hat. Anyway, so this is my personal AWS account. This is where I set up my blog site. It's built on Beanstalk. You could see here, there's a Beanstalk app. This Frankopedia environment that I have in here. It's built on PHP 7.2 on the Amazon Linux AMI version 2.87. This is the current app version that I deployed using a Git repository that I set up on my laptop, and then I pushed it using Git and the Beanstalk CLI. If you look at the configuration, I picked Beanstalk because that's one of the things that they test you on. They're pushing serverless, but Beanstalk is it's not serverless because it's using EC2 in this case, but it's one of the AWS services that makes it easy to deploy everything in an automated fashion. So in the configuration here, you could see that under software there's some environment variables defined, which tells my Beanstalk environment how to connect to the database, which is external to Beanstalk. Because if I put the database in Beanstalk, any database maintenance would take out the whole site, and that would not be what I call a best practice architecture, or highly available for that matter. So you could see here, right now I only have one T2 micro. I'm running out of budget here, and my AutoScaling group is only set to scale to 1, the maximum of 1. But there is a load balancer. It's a classic load balancer. I don't really have any of this stuff enabled here. The network is just a basic config, and you see there's no database defined here. The database is defined as a couple instances on RDS. This is my production, I guess I'll call it production database here, and I stood up another instance to play around with things because I installed some plugins, and plugins live in the local file system. And since I'm using Beanstalk, if I push out another update, those instances will be wiped out. And if I don't include the new plugins, then shit's gonna break. So I'm still experimenting with that. But you could see here also that the security groups that were provisioned by Beanstalk. Here's this one here is the load balancer security group, and it's only allowing HTTP from the world, and it has an outbound rule defined as well, which is really not necessary, I don't think, but I should know that. But it's a stateful firewall since it's a security group, but it's defined anyway. And then if you look at this security group here, this was created by Beanstalk, and really all this one's allowing is access to the EC2 instance, and it has the load balancer security group here, and then this is defined so I can SSH to my EC2 instances from my laptop for administration purposes. There's one other. I think this one is it. Oh, the RDS launch. This one here. This one defines the SQL, MySQL Aurora port so that the instances can get to the database, and also my instance has a public IP, so I can connect to it using some tools remotely from my laptop. And I have it locked down to just my IP. Trying to follow the pillars. The other thing, let's see, what else can I show here? You can see the AutoScaling group that Beanstalk created. So I created the AutoScaling group. You can see there's only one instance in here right now because I have it set to only scale to 1. There's nothing fancy here. With that, there should be a launch configuration that was created. Here's the launch config. I created an image from that just in case I lost it, and you can see here I have my management key pair also set up within my Beanstalk environment, because if you don't do that, you wouldn't be able to have any SSH access to the instance, and I thought that was kind of helpful to have for troubleshooting. Otherwise, you're gonna have to just rely on the logs through the Beanstalk console, and that's a little annoying, I think, to have to just request the logs. And you're only going to get specific application logs, and if you wanted to do any troubleshooting beyond that at the OS level, you would really need console access or SSH via PuTTY. Let's see, what else do we have here that I can show before I wrap this up? Oh, pretty important that Beanstalk uses CloudFormation. So you could see the stack here that Beanstalk used. This is the actual stack, and it created the load balancer, and here's the other resources that are part of the Beanstalk deployment: the AutoScaling group, the launch configuration. Pretty much it there. Like I said, the load balancer. I also have my own domain that I set up in Route 53, and I created a record with an alias. Somehow I ended up with Franopedia. I don't know. I made a typo. But here's the A record here, that I set up that points to the load balancer DNS entry. So when you go to Frankopedia, it sends you to the load balancer, and then the real load balancer sends you to the instances in the AutoScaling group. Back here to, I wanted to show you also that I have lost my frick cleaner. Yeah, have to fix that. This VOD demo, I also downloaded this demo because I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, it basically also, leverages a lot of the S3 services. There's an S3 bucket, there's several S3 buckets. There's a Dynamo database. There's a CloudFront distribution point. You could see here all of the resources. It uses Lambda, SNS, IAM roles and users, and S3 buckets, and a lot of good stuff here. So, it was good to see this in action and actually take a look at what it provisioned in Lambda. The functions, there's quite a few here. It uses the Elastic Transcoder. I used Node.js, and you can see this one's Python. So it's pretty cool stuff. I still have a lot to learn, but not sure which track I'll take next, if I'll go with DevOps or go for the professional level solutions architect. But in any event, I'm anxiously waiting to see my score, and depending on how well or bad I did, I may or may not share that score with the world, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up.